Welcome everyone. Today I have Ben Marshan, Head of Policy for the FPA with me, and I'm Dimitri Diamantes, Policy Manager. Today Ben and I are going to talk about the federal election and what impact it might have on financial planning related policy. Ben, we'll start with professional standards and the life insurance framework.
Thanks, Dimitri. So what we know is just prior to the election being called, the government released its second draft of the professional standards and education framework. What we saw there was an improvement on the first draft, which provided primarily further timelines. And you may have seen that recently we responded to that draft quite positively with a few minor changes during June. What we expect is that we'll see that legislation introduced into Parliament probably just after Parliament comes back in around the end of August. The other piece of legislation that we saw just before government called an election was the life insurance framework, which, as we know, was still in the Senate at the time the election was called. Again, what we'd expect is that that piece of legislation will probably be reintroduced into the new Parliament fairly shortly after it recommences, probably just with a new starting date is what we're expecting at the moment. Dimitri, did you want to talk a little bit about the superannuation changes and where they were left before the election?
Sure do, Ben. At our recent round of roadshows, we've spoken to members, many of whom have expressed concerns about the proposed lifetime non-concessional contribution cap, and there seems to be a big movement more broadly to limit the scope of that proposal, in particular to grandfather contributions that were made prior to budget night this year. Other measures that are of concern relate to the concessional contribution cap, particularly reducing that cap for those clients who are nearing retirement. There's also concern about the proposed transition to retirement measures, which would remove the tax exemption on assets supporting those pensions. Together, this represents an opportunity for the FPA to advocate change to the proposed measures.
Thanks for joining us today. If you've got any questions about policy issues or what's happening with government or with regulators, please feel free to give Dimitri and myself an email at policy@fpa.com.au.